How about making anywhere from 5 to 50% yield on your crypto using yield farming? In this video, I'm going to go over exactly what yield farming is, how to go ahead and navigate different blockchains to actually yield farm, some of the best strategies that are out there, the best platforms, and everything else when it comes to thinking about earning passive income on your crypto. Timestamps for each section are in the description. Also, some of the websites, other resources that I'll reference in this video, I'll link everything down in the description if you need it. Firstly, though, we need to go over what exactly yield farming is, because yield farming is very different to staking and lending. And you can actually use all of these strategies together, because yield farming itself may be useful, but it also may just not be useful. And you may just want to go with staking instead. So just a very quick 5-year-old's drawing here. Exactly what yield farming is. So for me, yield farming is finding incentives or market arbitrages, right? So this is where you have crypto anyway, and you're looking to use it to earn yield from that. And there are separate ways you can do that with yield farming versus something like staking and lending. So the first option right here, as an example, is something called Avalanche Rush. Now, this has been and gone. It was last year as of making this video, but essentially what this was a massive incentive program from Avalanche and their, venture capital founders to basically incentivize use of the Avalanche blockchain. So they had $180 million that they were basically giving out as extra yield if you went and actually got some assets over onto their blockchain from Ethereum. You can see they were using Aave and Curve, two of the biggest applications out there for lending. And so really, this 180 million was just basically easy money, right? If you were doing this anyway and you want to, you were lending out maybe USDC or USDT or your Ethereum or anything like that, you can obviously bridge it over to Avalanche and start earning extra yields for nothing, right, with this $180 million program. So this is yield farming, and obviously blockchains launch all the time. And so I'll get onto that later in the video about how you can kind of navigate this and make sure that you're seeing all of these incentives and moving your assets to the best places to get the best yield. Also, though, really not to be outdone is staking and lending. Staking and lending for me is much lower risk than some of the more high risk yield farming strategies. And so depending on how much risk you want to take and also the yield that you get on a yearly basis, you may actually just want to look at staking and lending as well. So I'm going to focus on lending right here. I use Celsius. I also use Nexo to lend out some of my crypto. This, in my opinion, is low risk, but you get great rewards for not having to do anything, right? So something like Celsius, they pay, you can see here, 5% on Bitcoin. If you look at Ethereum, they pay 5.35%. These are actually very good yields, and you don't have to use blockchains. You don't have to do any of that. You just deposit your crypto on there, and they will pay you this weekly in the case of Celsius, and in the case of Nexo, I think they pay you daily. You can see USDC gets 10%, 6% for Bitcoin. So for a lot of people, this is actually going to be a great thing to do, is basically just put your crypto on a lending platform and then get that yield. That way, you don't have to use blockchains or anything like that. Actually, Nexo have a deposit bonus. I think it's $100 deposit. They'll give you $25 of Bitcoin. With Nexo, I think it's a $400 deposit, and they give you $50 of Bitcoin as a deposit bonus. So I'll leave those links in the description if you want to go ahead and actually do that. I use both of those platforms. Also, something to really be aware of is that yields are fleeting with yield farming. Yield farming is really about using blockchains and seeking out incentives, and they come and they go. So you need to be an active manager if you want to yield farm. The next bit is risks. There definitely are risks with yield farming. One is smart contract risks. A lot of incentive programs are put on new blockchains and new applications. And so there may be some, rug pulls, as we call them, smart contract risks. And so, some of the higher APY stuff is just inherently riskier, because risk equals return, right? And so if it's riskier, they have to pay you a higher reward. So just kind of see what you want to do and how much risk you want to take, because getting 100% APY and then getting all of your money rugged is obviously not good. The next thing is impermanent loss. Impermanent loss is something that definitely happens. I'll describe it a little bit in this video, but impermanent loss can really eat away at gains that you make with yields that you make through yield farming. So it's slightly more kind of difficult to explain, but impermanent loss is something you really need to understand, because high APY doesn't always mean a high total yield. So I'm actually going to leave the kind of explanation of that to my crypto course. I just want to plug it very quickly here. So if you want to know more about DeFi, how I earn passive income from yield farming and lending and everything like that, I have an entire DeFi section in the crypto course you can see here. Some of the more advanced topics that I can't really cover in this video are in the course, including what impermanent loss is. You can see I've got 2 videos on it here, how to calculate it, how to understand it, how to navigate that, and how I go about getting yield from DeFi. Also, we have a bunch of other videos. There's 150 videos now, private Discord groups that I'm in that you can come and ask me questions as well. So I'll leave that linked in the description if you want to see that. But we're going to get on to some of the yield farming strategies. Now I want to get on to searching for incentives. Where are these incentives and how can we go ahead and take advantage of them? Well, you have to keep up with the industry. So I suggest following some of the big protocols on Twitter for sure. You can come and follow me on Twitter, or more importantly, follow the people I follow. Obviously, I follow a lot of kind of industry projects and everything like that. So just as an example here, and I'm not for or against all of this, what I'm saying, but this is just as an example. The Polkadot ecosystem is basically exploding right now, and they are going through their incentive phase. So this is something that yield farmers will take advantage of. A Star Network is one of the parachains on the Polkadot ecosystem. So they're just launching their blockchain and some of the applications. And as you can see here, obviously from their Twitter, they have a $100 million A Star Boost program. This is an incentive program that yield farmers can take advantage of to get much higher yields than would otherwise be possible. This comes from their Twitter. You can read all about it. Just as an example though, so we've gone over to A Star. They are a new parachain, as I said, and one of the applications on this blockchain is called Yearn.finance. This is all from their Twitter. You can go through it and follow the links. What you can see right here is that there is a massive APY on these assets. So USD coin is a stable coin right here. You can see the deposit APY is 2.2%, not very good, but the deposit reward on the right hand side, 24%. Now you get paid that in Yearn.finance tokens, which obviously you might not want. You might want to just keep them and see if they go up in value, or what most people will do is just put USD coin onto the platform, get this what is almost 27% yield, right? And then they get the tokens, the Yearn.finance tokens, and just sell them on a DEX or sell them on an exchange. This is the same as getting yield, right? So you're basically getting almost 27% yield for holding USD coin. If you want Ether, right? So if you have some Ethereum, you can wrap it and put it on this chain. You get 4% yield, plus you can see here 42% worth of Yearn.finance tokens. These are short-term incentives to incentivize collateral and assets to come over to the platform. These yields are very short-term, but very good. So the reason why I highlight Polkadot is really because Polkadot is a very large and trusted ecosystem. You'll find applications all around the web that have very high yields, but for me, I would never use them because I don't trust them, and they're part of a chain that just isn't big enough with enough liquidity, and I don't trust it. Polkadot and Starlay, they're well backed, and so that's something more trustworthy and something that I would go for. But obviously, do your own research with all of this. Coming to some resources that you can use yourself to do your own research though, for sure, I would recommend DeFi Llama. I follow these guys. They have an entire site that is basically dedicated to yield, total value locked, and decentralized finance. And so you can find out what is moving and some of the protocols that will be seeing big influxes of capital, which may tip you off to some incentive programs. So I use DeFi Llama. Also something like Coin98 Analytics. Again, you can follow the people I follow these guys. You can see they actually today, as of making this video, basically put a list out of some of the highest APYs in the ecosystem for stable coins. And you can see that we have Avalanche right here, Kronos, Ethereum, and Avalanche again. So you can see exactly what protocols and blockchains are, giving the highest yields, and then make some decisions accordingly. Another thing to be really aware of when looking for opportunities is don't get your head turned by extremely high APYs. They are often high because of something called impermanent loss. Like I said, I explained that in my crypto course, and you absolutely must understand that because you could actually end up losing money even with a high APY. I can explain here. This is a yield opportunity. You can see you have to buy ETH and US dollar tether and then put them into this yield opportunity. You can see that the APY is massive, around 244% APY for a day. So obviously that's not the one day, that's an APY, an annualized percentage yield. Obviously one day would be a lot less than that. But you're looking around about 0.9 or something percent per day. And then you can see these high APYs. The reason why the APY is extremely high is because of something called impermanent loss that happens between two assets that don't have a correlated price. And so the APY has to be high to compensate for the extreme loss that you will get through impermanent loss when you have these tokens in the liquidity pool. Again, if I've lost you here, these are just some, some terms and some strategies that are really a little bit more complex that I can't explain in this video. But what I would suggest is, making sure that high APYs really aren't the main factor of what you're going to be using here. You really need to stick to stable coins or lending with an incentive. That's going to give you probably a good mix between a yield, but without any impermanent loss. So you have to keep that in mind. These high APYs are high for a reason, and that is because the risk of loss is also higher. Now I'm going to go over a quick strategy that can be used right now that I would consider yield farming, taking away any impermanent loss and any of those risks. Now, obviously there's risk with everything here, but this is just as an example. Again, not telling anyone to do this, but just as an example. So this is something that we can do using yield farming and other protocols. So this is what would be considered an ETH 2.0 strategy. Okay, so right now, as of making this video, ETH 2.0 is in the process of moving Ethereum over to proof of stake. We don't need to know the hows and whys, but this is a strategy that's available right now. What you can do is actually stake Ethereum in ETH 2.0 with a platform called Lido that's decentralized on Ethereum. They will give you this token called staked ETH right here. Okay, staked ETH. Staked ETH is a liquid asset that is 1-for-1 with Ethereum. Now what you can do is go and put that staked ETH right here on Aave, and you can borrow ETH against your staked ETH. Now staked ETH and ETH are 1-for-1, so there's no impermanent loss. They're going to be exactly the same price. Take your staked ETH. Now remember, staked ETH actually pays a yield of around 4.5% or something like that. So you're already getting around 4.5% on your staked ETH with Lido, because that's what ETH 2.0 is paying out right now. But you take this staked ETH, you put it on to Aave as collateral, and you borrow against the value of your staked ETH, and you borrow ETH, right? Then you take that ETH and you use Yearn.finance or another DEX to swap that ETH into more staked ETH. That staked ETH then obviously gets a yield with ETH 2.0 because that's what it pays out. You then use that staked ETH and put it all the way back into the strategy. So you basically, I should actually put this right here. So this would actually be going right here into Aave. Okay, so you can do that. Now what you're doing is essentially borrowing your asset against that same asset. So it's the same price. Okay, so we go over to Aave. You obviously have to get staked ETH initially, which you can do by staking through Lido. So go to lido.fi, I think it is. I'll link everything in the description. You get staked ETH. You then take that staked ETH on Aave, go to Ethereum, the Ethereum market, right? And you use staked ETH to borrow ETH. So you can see down here, staked ETH can be used as collateral. You can borrow ETH right here, and you'll have to pay 2.34%, I believe, to actually borrow. Yeah, 2.34% to borrow Ethereum. And then you go over to Curve and you take that Ethereum and you sell it back into staked ETH. That staked ETH then goes back onto Aave as collateral to borrow even more ETH. So you're paying 2.34% to borrow as much ETH as you can. But here's the thing, Ethereum 2.0 is paying 4.5% or somewhere around that. So essentially what you're doing is taking 2% out of the market as a arbitrage. And what you can do is you can actually do that a few times, up to 4x leverage your original position, taking 2% each time. You're going to be making around 8 to 9% APY instead of 4.5 or 4.8%. So you're basically doubling the APY on your original, right? Now you can get 5.35% in Celsius. Just without all of this, but some people are doing this. Again, I don't want to recommend this as a strategy, but this is a strategy that some people are doing, so I thought I'd mention it in this video. Now, the downside of these strategies, especially the ETH strategy, is that it costs gas fees on Ethereum with every transaction. So if you have a small amount, it's just not going to be worth it doing this strategy. You have to have a certain size of position to make the fees basically irrelevant. And so you're going to need a bit of money. But what I'm going to do is show you a couple of other platforms that you can use when yield farming, which will be lower cost because they're on different chains. So I'm going to show you the best kind of platforms that you may want to use. Also, these platforms tend to aggregate yield farming opportunities into one direct platform that you can use, which makes your life a lot easier. So you can just use one platform and it kind of does everything for you, and you can manage it all in here. So, most people use these things. The first one is Yearn.finance. You can see it's on Ethereum, it's on Phantom Network, but it's also just added Arbitrum Network. Arbitrum is Ethereum, it's a layer 2, and it's a little bit cheaper. So if you go to Ethereum and then go to Vaults right here, you can see all of the different pools that you can put your coins into. So the Curve Rocket pool right here is essentially that ETH 2.0 strategy. You can see it's brand new in here and it's got no assets for right now. But if we go down to some stable coins, you should be able to see US dollar Tether, you can get 2.15% yield. So not amazing. You can see the gross yield right here, about 4.5% for that strategy. So you can go down, and obviously stable coins and stablecoin liquidity pools have no impermanent loss, so that's really good. Other ones may do, and so you have to factor this in, but you can go and see all of the different pools and what they're yielding at that time. Another one is Beefy.finance for sure. Multi-chain yield optimizer. You can see they're on Binance Smart Chain, Avalanche, Polygon, Harmony, Arbitrum now, and they'll be adding more and more over time. So what happens with Beefy, as you can see here, essentially it's the same sort of thing. So you can search by each chain. So you can go to the filter right here, and then you can come to blockchain and kind of filter out which ones you want. So if you want to use Avalanche or something like that, or you want to use something else, you can see them all here. I'm going to go to stable coins right here. So again, no impermanent loss with stable coins. And you can see on Moonbeam Network, that's another Polkadot network, they're paying 16.47% APY right now. So you'll get a very small amount in the stablecoin and a much larger amount in, Stellar Swap tokens that obviously you need to sell to make sure that you kind of lock in that APY. But you can see them all aggregated here. You can see which chains that they use, Avalanche for this one, and the yield that you're getting on those as well. So definitely something to look at. And then you have Harvest.finance, which is essentially the exact same thing. It's on Ethereum, it's on Binance Smart Chain, and it's on Polygon Matic. So you can have a look at some of the pools, and you can easily invest in these right from the app. If you have wrapped ETH, you can link up your wallet, stake it right there, and it will do it for you automatically. The other one for Ethereum as well is InstaDApp. You can see InstaDApp is doing the staked ETH strategy right now in yield farming. You can see you can get 8.5% by your ETH by going on leverage with Aave. So borrowing ETH with staked ETH, swapping it, putting it back. This actually does it automatically for you, and it actually does it in fewer transactions, so it does save you some gas. But obviously that's one of the downsides is gas on these chains, which is why some people use Binance and Avalanche instead of the Ethereum mainnet, as it's a little bit cheaper. But these platforms are what a lot of people use to go ahead and kind of automate their strategies without having to do 7 transactions themselves manually. There are risks with all of this, so please don't take this as investment advice. This is what some people do. There are other considerations, for example, tax reporting and other considerations as well that definitely have to go into, what you're doing when you're yield farming and all of the time that it takes to actually keep up with these strategies. There are some other very important things to know. So again, if you want to know those, they're all in the course, and we have Discord groups that you can come in and, ask some questions. I'm in those as well if you want to ask me some questions about all of this. I'm James with MoneyZG. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.